Hello, John Noel. I wanted to show you your NeXT Cube. We've got the micro SD here, and it's booting into Next Step 3.3. So I wanted to show a few things that I've discovered here that may be of interest to the NeXT community. What I'm going to do is go ahead and power off. And then it takes a second for it to power off. And what we have here is a load board. And you'll notice here that it says bad power supply. Well, what had happened is there's a knockout in there. Okay, and that knockout is used to basically cover the hole where an optical disc would be. In this case, I'm going to put in a CD-DVD in that lower space there. Now I'm going to power up because I want to show you something I've discovered that has been kind of an issue for quite some time. And so we go to verbose mode, and what I've done is I paused it. Now if we go into parameters, and the very last one is enable parity checking if parity memory is present. Well, I have this checked to yes, but most of the time it's checked to no, okay? And there is parity RAM in here, which is 9-chip, and you can mix banks of 8-chip and 9-chip, and NeXT does sets of 4. So now I'm going to power off and watch what happens here. We're going to power back up, and all I did was change that one parameter, and we're going to get the fabled exception 2 error, if I'm right. Okay, see that? Exception 2 error. The bane of our existence with NeXT computers, okay? And this one's been kind of troubling me for a long time. I know that there's new capacitors on that motherboard, and I know I've got new RAM. In fact, it's a mix of old and new RAM. And when I went to all parity, I'm like switching them out. This has taken, several hours on different boards. And I'm like going, is there a bad sim? What's going on here? Well, when we go back to parameters, okay, and you'll see DRAM tests. Check that, yes. I tend to check all these power on system tests, yes. You want to check that one because that affects this one. Sound out tests, yes. SCSI tests, yes. Loop until key press, I do no because otherwise it'll get stuck in a loop. Verbose test mode, yes. And the reason I do that is you can see all this text instead of a graphic. If that's checked to no, you're kind of clueless as to what's going on in the background, and I like to have a clue what's happening in the Unix world. And then boot extended diagnostics. Leave that checked no unless you have the diagnostic disks and you're doing a check. Otherwise, it'll hang, and that happens frequently. Serial port A, I usually check that yes, as someone may be trying to do some things where they need a serial console. Allow any ROM command, I leave checked yes. Allow boot from any device if password protected, yes. And I do this just because I'm not sure what's going to happen on the other end, but make it as painless as possible. Allow optical drive, yes. And enable parity checking if parity memory is present. Okay, so now we're going to change that to yes and watch what happens. Okay, I power off. And we're going to go ahead and power back up. There's our light, and that light, what it does is it simulates load on early power supplies. Okay, so watch. Now it's going to boot, and there's no error message, no exception. Okay, and extended system test passed. And it boots correctly. So this is one of those things that'll drive a person absolutely crazy, trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And it turns out it's a hidden parameter in Unix and a parameter command in the very last question in this case. In other cases, it may actually be a bad memory stick. But in this case, when I had all parity memory, I had that, checked it yes, and then it awakens this whole system, and it boots flawlessly. John Noel, I hope you appreciate the extra time I'm doing here on your system. And I think you'd mentioned you wanted Illustrator loaded. I've got you loaded up with Illustrator and lots of other cool apps here. And let's go ahead, log in. I've got a nice mouse. I did find the French keyboard for you. Last French keyboard I have in stock, or at least I think it is. And so we've got Mathematica. I can boot up, even reboot it as a Macintosh if you wanted. And let's see here. So I'm going to close that down. And we've got Virtuoso, and there's Adobe Illustrator for you. So really appreciate your business and patience. And I'm going to launch it just to make sure everything's working correctly. And make sure it loads. And these little SCSI SDs are actually pretty nice. I mean, it's great. You know, we're now booting off a little SD card for the whole system. And you can make a backup using the DD command on modern hardware. And what used to take weeks to install all this software, we can now do in about 10 minutes. And it looks like I've got Adobe Illustrator up and running for you. So that's awesome. Have a great day, and I am going to plan on letting this go overnight to make sure, and we'll ship tomorrow. I know I've been promising, but the RAM threw me for a loop today, and now that's another one that I hope this video will help people in case that's what it is. Have a good day. Bye-bye.